It's December 5th, 2014. And I was just talking about Brad Pitt from the DEA showing up at the Ballinger's house when I was younger, when I was a little kid. Or sort of an older little kid. And then Brad Pitt showing up briefly, I believe, to drop something off. And the only reason I remember him is frequently they were interchanging Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt for some reason. They're mixing them up, having them cross paths a lot, and they had the same name, but I saw both of them. They were totally different people, but I believe both of them showed up at the Ballinger's house. The Brad Pitt with the DEA, I believe, was there when Alvaro Pardo was there. And then Brad Pitt possibly, I'm not sure what he was doing there, but the only reason I remember him is that I had already met him before at my grandparents' house in Kashmir. And so I knew who he was. And I'm pretty sure because I remember Christy Ballinger having been there, and she was just going on and on, sort of stars in her eyes, because she was so thrilled that Brad Pitt had been there, even though he wasn't a famous star, like a movie star at all at that time. He was just, as far as I know, he was just taking acting classes. And, but he was there dropping something off, like in a bag. So, these were all government people. And as I say, the Ballingers were connected to the FBI offices. And I was getting tortured by them. So they also took me to this neighbor that they had in the trailer park, to his house, as I say, that this Hispanic man. And I got electrocuted with an electrocution box over at his house. He was a mechanic as well. And I later saw the same, like decades later, I saw the same man involved in what ended up being a hit and run of me in a Tiger Tualatin area decades later. But what happened with the Ballingers, the reason I mention them is because not only were they at this Dixie identical swapping site, and not only did they torture me, and they also had me at Sandy's house and Ballinger's house, and Sandy was a beautician. Sandy was Christy's mom, not Erica's, but Christy's. I think that's how it went. Like maybe they had the same dad, and I'm not quite sure how that goes, but they're half sisters. And I was getting babysat by Sandy, and he was just a step. Maybe they weren't related specifically, it was more of a step thing. But Erica and Christy are definitely related. So they're involved in the construction business, like gravel pits. And I was getting taken over to this at-home beautician office that Sandy had, and also at Lonnie's house, because Lonnie Ballinger was also a beautician. They both worked as hairdressers and makeup artists. And they were involved in trying to force me to do blowjobs for men. So they were directly involved in attempting to set me up, typically with the sitting position theme of, two different themes. One involving my lying down and having knives used to threaten me with. And then the other rape situation where I was in a chair or seated, and they were forcing me to do, and I was supposed to do blowjobs or else get tortured. I was getting tortured with the electrocution box by both of them. And they were also using lollipops and suckers and forcing me to, and popsicles and forcing me to lick them a certain way, as like training me to do fellatio basically on a man, and on how to suck on a penis basically. So these women were involved in, they also at one point, to torture me because I was trying to talk about it, I was trying to report it, they poured permanent hair solution down my throat. And that is something that happened to my son when my son was kidnapped from me and taken by CPS, by a bunch of criminals that worked for the United States government who molested and tortured me when I was a kid. My son showed up one day at a visit, and he smelled, his breath smelled like hair perm solution. Well, I know what the smell is because I've had permanents done on my hair before, but also I had permanent solution, hair permanent solution, poured down my throat forcibly by the Ballinger family when I was screaming and trying to report things to police, and they knew some cops. So when they found out that I tried to report things to police, that they were forcing me to learn how to sexually service a man when I was a kid, little girl, I got punished in that way. And that wasn't the only way that I got punished. So, so to later have this guy showing up, Jordan, calling me a cockroach, after these women were specifically involved in working with the FBI to do these horrendous things to me, it's pretty bad. And what actually occurred is that they enlisted Erica Ballinger to be to help facilitate two rapes against me. One by Mike Tanzer, that I've already described when I was older, and one by Robin Bechtold, which was 2 different times. And they, Erica Ballinger was involved in these different rapes involving men against me. She also was involved with another rapist, and how much she was involved with setting things up that happened to me in D.C. or Maryland, I'm not sure, later in, approximately 2008, 2009, I don't know, but they knew Alvaro Pardo, who admitted to me that he worked for the FBI, and he was another of the rapists of me, who basically raped me. I was trying to push him off me on the bed, and then until the phone rang, and that was the signal that if I didn't stop resisting him or fighting him off, I was going to get tortured or killed. So all of these people are basically connected to the Ballingers. And which leads pretty much straight to the FBI. And Erica Ballinger, after she had her son, ended up going back to school, to college. George Fox got an accounting degree and specifically decided she wanted to work for the FBI, which I didn't think about at the time, but it's no surprise because her mom worked for the FBI. I mean, she worked as a hairdresser, sure, but she also worked for the FBI. I saw her there many times, and with them, with other cops. And so they were, I believe, not just involved in torturing me and trying to facilitate rape against me and having me look like I was consenting to it. They were also, I believe, involved in some of the attempted hits, attempts to assassinate me, which occurred later. And it's possible they were also involved in killing, if this person really died, it's possible that they have been involved in getting rid of a few other people who they were worried might talk about who was involved in harming me. So basically, when I was first meeting them, the Ballingers, I was living in Moses Lake, but I was getting trafficked to Oregon all the time. And so that's how I would be at their house and how these different things happened. And then sometimes when I stayed in Coquille, I get driven over there to Wilsonville or Sherwood, Tualatin area. And then I was still living in Moses Lake, and then, like a decade later, suddenly my dad had a job transfer. The government basically transferred our entire family to Sherwood, so that I would have to go to Sherwood High School, which is where a bunch of these government kids all went to school. So then basically I was in an even worse situation, having to go to high school where I was getting targeted by all the same people. So I was constantly surrounded by criminals who worked for the government. People who tortured me, who lied about me and claimed I was mentally ill when I wasn't, when really they were mentally ill themselves. All of them collectively are pretty sick people. And all of them are doing okay. Not one of them is struggling financially. All of them got perks and bonuses and rewards from the government for harming me. And they were also pretty much all involved in trafficking and stealing music from me, songwriting. So they weren't just forcing me to do a bunch of rape, acquiesce to rape for government people. They were doing a lot of other things. And they were all connected to the Middletons too, which is a little strange, because to have that many United States government employees supporting and directly connected to the Middleton family, which was in England, just raises a lot of questions as to, why the United States has had such an interest in the Middletons to start with. Which, I've already expressed my opinion on that they spy for the government, for the U.S. government. I don't see any other reason why the U.S. would have done some of the things they've done or be as obsessed with them if that is not true. So that is what I'm going to share for right now. Those women, some of them also sexually molest me themselves with their tongues, like orally. And I want to talk about all of the different women who are involved in raping me, probably next.